Good day, Africa, and welcome to another exciting edition of AAU Talks. And AAU Talks is brought to you by the Association of African Universities headquarters here in Accra, Ghana. My name is Kwesi Sam, and as you know, I'm your regular host for AAU Talks. And today we are discussing a very interesting topic for a beautiful morning like this, and we are discussing child sex trafficking and child abuse. Sex trafficking, let me say that again, and child abuse. And we are privileged to have a New York attorney, and she is going to help us understand what is child trafficking and what is sex abuse as well. Don't forget that you can join the conversation via our social media platforms, Association of African Universities on Facebook and AAU_67 on Twitter. We'll go for a short break, and when I return, I will let you know my guest. Stay tuned.
Anyone can get an education, but not everyone gets quality education. It's never too late to acquire it. The University of Lusaka, a modern private university located off Ali Kinkata Road in Lusaka, Zambia, offers undergraduate, master's, and PhD degree programs in the School of Business and Management, Law, Economics, Banking and Financial Services, Public Administration, Governance and International Relations, Education, Engineering and the Built Environment, and Health Sciences. Our curriculum is practical and designed to meet the changing needs of employers, business, and society. Because at Unilas, we make students think outside the book. Our driving force is a passion for quality education. We build graduates fit for purpose. Enroll now for January or June intakes. For more information, log on to www.unilas.ac.zm.
Welcome from the break. You are still watching AAU Talks, and AAU Talks is brought to you by the Association of African Universities. And we are privileged today to have Juanita Headley, and she is a New York attorney, and she tells me she has been volunteering for the past 7 years as a lawyer, and she is going to help us understand sex trafficking and child abuse. You are welcome to AAU Talks, Juanita.
Thank you for having me.
How are you doing?
Amazing. It's a privilege to be here.
Great. And I know it's not your first time in Ghana.
No, I was here around 85 days ago. It was my first trip here. My mother is Jamaican. Her second husband also is Jamaican. He's a Rastafarian, and so he believes that our origins are from Ghana.
Okay.
And my mother has been coming for 10 years, and she invited me to spend Christmas here. I came around October month, left January 10th, and I had a very, very, very horrible experience.
Okay.
And said I'm never coming back again.
Oh.
And then I'm here.
Wow, wonderful.
So be careful when you say never. And in fact, the reason I returned was for one reason, which is the main one, my faith in Jesus Christ. I'm a born-again Christian. And because of my faith in God, I believe when he calls me, I will follow. And my name is not Jonah. So that's why I'm here. And then number two, I have a book that I'll be launching very soon.
Okay.
And so I have returned for this book launch.
Okay, amazing. And knowing for a fact that 2019 is actually the year of return for, you know, it's 400 years after the slavery, and so everybody is coming back to Africa. And your second time again in Ghana, how has the experience been? Is it the same as the first?
No.
Okay.
It's been amazing from the time I got here. It's been very positive. I've been very blessed by 3 amazing people. The first one, Priscilla, who's my volunteer online. Angel, Pascal, Angel. I call him Angel because he's called Gabriel, but I call him Angel. He's been an absolute blessing to me. He's my current web designer. And then Winfred Della, who has been my bodyguard, my landlord, my host, my chaperone. He's been really phenomenal, and I have to mention them because the 3 of them are the reason why my experience has been so positive. I believe it's the people that make or break a situation.
Exactly.
And often when we go to a new country, we judge the country on the basis of one person or one experience that is negative rather than everything else in its entirety. And these 3 individuals have blessed me tremendously, and I have a different mindset now. I've come here for a different purpose, and I'm willing to really embrace my time here and make the most of it so that I leave with a lot more positive on my lips than how it was before.
Yeah, good stuff. So I believe that you'll be coming back again.
I'm sure I will. Yeah.
Over and over again.
Yeah.
Until you finally settle in Ghana.
I'm sure. I don't want to say never. Every time I say never, it happens.
Okay.
And so I'm being realistic here. The Bible says there's life and death in the tongue. So I know that probably will happen.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm nodding because I'm sure I'll be back again.
Great.
And again and again.
Right. So let's go deeper into the discussion. But before that, we want to know a bit about you. You just told us your parents are Jamaican, but then a bit of your work life, what you've been doing as an attorney. We will be so much interested to know a little bit about you.
I've been volunteering for 7 years unpaid around the world. And for the last 5 years, I've been volunteering unpaid as a New York licensed practicing attorney. People call me a missionary, and I say I'm a freelance missionary. Why is that? Because a church has not sent me. I believe that God and Jesus Christ have sent me forward and commissioned me with a purpose, with a ministry, with a message to give. And so I've been traveling the world for the last 7 years, predominantly speaking on human trafficking, educating and empowering people. All of this I do free of charge. And so I have a passion to help. I have a passion to serve. I feed the homeless and the poor. I volunteer in orphanages. But what people don't understand is my volunteering for 7 years isn't so much a faith-based thing.
Okay.
It's more of an immigration situation. Because a lot of people hear the word attorney and they believe I have a huge bank balance. I've traveled to 29 countries in my life. In this year alone, I've traveled to around 5 or 6 countries and been on 18 different flights. And people think I'm rich, but it's not a money thing. It's called Holy Spirit Air Miles, the God that I serve. And so for me personally, as a New York attorney and as a practicing Christian, I cannot work in the United States and be paid to do so because I don't have a green card, a work permit, or citizenship. So if any other attorney chooses to work without their permit, authorization, or citizenship, that is between them and God. But for me personally, I do not work for money in the U.S. because that's illegal. So I provide free legal advice to indigent communities, those who are homeless and immigrants. And outside of the U.S., I volunteer unpaid for the same reasons. I don't have work authorization. So it's not a Christian thing. It's more of an immigration thing. Okay,
and a personal belief, I'm so sure. All right, so then let's go deeper and also understand why are you devoting the best part of your career to look at issues of sex trafficking and then child abuse?
Unfortunately, I was the victim of childhood sexual abuse from the age of 4 to 10 by my mother's first husband, who is now deceased.
Okay.
As a result of what happened to me, and because I did not receive the help when I was younger, I feel as though I'm trying to be the superhero and trying to assist others who have been through something similar or have the potential of going through that experience. Because I don't want to see other young women, other young boys, men, etc., going through what I went through or having to kind of travel the world to help others because they don't feel that they are complete or that they're fulfilled. It's almost like you're searching for something. I have God and I have the fulfillment, but I don't have the complete healing as of today.
Absolutely.
I believe I'm healed in Jesus' name, but I don't have that complete healing. And so I'm trying to find it, trying to discover it through helping other victims and survivors. And for me personally, I feel that if things had been different, I believe that I would have had a paid job. I would have acquired citizenship. I would have acquired a green card, because at the end of the day, it's experience that talks. And volunteering can only go so far, but I believe I would have accomplished these things. I believe I would have made different decisions. And on the back of that, I believe that I'd have my orphanage, I'd have adopted Filipino children, and I believe I'd be married by now. But because of what happened to me, my life took a different journey.
All right.
And I believe, as it says in the Bible, what the enemy intends for evil, God intends for good.
For good, sure.
So even though I was abused, and even though I was a victim, I'm now a survivor who's taken the negative and doing something positive. But the one thing I really wish is that I could be paid for what I do. I travel the world, sleeping on the floor, not always having enough funds. I love what I do. I love serving, but I wish I could be paid because that would change the dynamics of my experiences. That's the only thing I desire. And then one of my other desires is actually to build an orphanage in the Philippines and to build bakeries around the world. I have a dream, and I believe this dream can become a reality if the resources and tools are there. And my dream is to open a bakery, or bakeries, plural, with open hiring policy. So what is open hiring policy? I want to hire men and women who've left the sex industry. I want to hire individuals who are homeless but of sane mind. And I want to hire ex-convicts. The God that I serve believes in second chances, and so do I. In the United States, there's an ice cream factory called Ben & Jerry's. It's a famous ice cream. Every employee in their brownie factory is an ex-convict.
That's wrong.
I had my dream before Ben and Jerry's, but I believe an unpaid lawyer can never accomplish that. But I'm praying and hoping that one day somebody will see what I'm doing for these years unpaid and will assist me to make that dream become a reality.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, those two dreams are not about me, the orphanage and the bakery, about others, because I'm all about serving.
Okay, and I believe the Lord will do that for you.
In Jesus' name.
Yes, I believe so. But then I want to ask you a question, but I don't know whether it will come through the discussion, because someone who has been through a similar situation, how was the healing process for you? Because I believe that you are able to talk about it today because you may have gotten some intervention, or you may have gotten some support system through a proper healing process. And so today you are I don't know, you are victorious, or you're an overcomer, and so you can't talk about it. How was the healing process for you personally?
For me, I don't really know if I have really been healed as such, in the tangible sense, because there are still certain parts of my character that will identify to those who have the knowledge that I was a victim and I'm now a survivor. But in my case, what I will say is that my stepfather, who is deceased, he was my best friend. As an adult, I realized I was groomed, but he was my best friend at the time. So it was not a love-hate relationship. He abused me whilst I was asleep, and in the daytime, he was nice to me. He's one of the reasons that I actually studied to become a chef in Switzerland and worked at the United Nations. He taught me a lot of things, but he was a perpetrator. And so for me, as an adult, having understood that he wasn't really a good person and he wasn't really a best friend, I had to accept the reality that this person had an ulterior motive. But for me, rather than being bitter about what he did, I tend to focus more on the positive aspect of his character. Because I believe that every person on this earth has positive in them. You know, as uncomfortable as this is to say, I believe that even somebody like Hitler could have something positive in him. I don't believe any person on this earth was created with this pure destruction in them. And so my stepfather, because of the relationship that we had, it was easier for me to, air quotes, get over what had happened, because it wasn't so much of a negative, air quotes, experience. But I would say that my mother assisted me with getting therapy and counseling, and that has helped. It wasn't productive enough because I wasn't going frequently, and it didn't deal specifically with the root issue, but it has helped me to understand things better. And what a lot of people don't realize with victims, quite often we have issues with ourselves and issues with feelings. And so when people get to know us, they may realize that we have maybe a lot of aggression. Maybe we build up a wall, or maybe we don't know our emotions. So we either overreact by everything or underreact. Yes, and so for myself, I would typically overreact, and everything I'd become angry about. But really, the anger disguises other feelings underneath. And the wall that we build up is to protect ourselves. So when people meet me, they may think I'm completely healed and whole. It's not necessarily the case, because there's still things under the surface. But by the grace of God, I'm now able to share my story. But in the past, I didn't share because I was ashamed, because of the stigma attached. Because when I share the story, it points to my mother, it points to my family. And in protecting them, I wasn't sharing. But I realize that silence will not protect future children from abuse.
Absolutely.
So I'm not here to shame anybody. I'm here simply to educate people on my own experiences so that their family members do not have to go through the very same thing.
Okay. All right. So earlier on, you may mention of the fact that you are launching a book.
That's correct.
And so we want to really go into details to find out what exactly are you talking about in the book, and then is it part of your personal experience, and then it's also on sex abuse and child trafficking as well.
With regards to the book, it's on child abuse, human trafficking, and it also has my own personal story. I wanted to make the book as conversational as possible. Because I'm an attorney and I'm not a statistician, it doesn't have statistics or numbers. It has real life stories. I've traveled the world and I've been to the red light district, particularly in Asia. And so I'm sharing the things that I know, because not everybody can go to the red light. Not everybody can stomach to see those things. And not everybody's hearing or seeing the things that I do. My desire is for people to become more open-minded. And so I've written the book in a way in which when you read it, hopefully your opinion on abusers and abused women, boys, girls, and children will change. Because quite often we can be very judgmental about something we know nothing about. I'm an imperfect human being, a Christian under construction. But by the grace of God, I'm able to be more open-minded in the way I think about things, the way that I look at people, the way I perceive them. Quite often we name people murderer, rapist, pedophile. I don't use those terms.
Just labeling.
Yes, I believe there's life and death in the tongue. So when I look at a person who's committed murder, I don't see them as a murderer. I see them as a human being who has committed a murder.
Okay.
If a person is addicted to child pornography, sexual abuse, I see them as a human being who has a tendency towards, a human being who has. And what's amazing is the Lord has opened doors for me to have a lot of impact and influence throughout Asia particularly, and in the Caribbean, specifically the Philippines, Trinidad and Tobago. And through sharing information and talking to my audience, I realized that the resource of a book is necessary and needed. And the book stems really from my tagline, which is, "Can you keep a secret?" which is the name of the book. Because what people don't realize, often, not always, but often, when a child wants to disclose something to you, they will say, "Can you keep a secret?" Whether it's that they wet the bed or they ate a cookie and they shouldn't have, typically they will ask you, "Can you keep a secret?" I personally asked that question to 2 family members, and they responded, "It depends." I asked them repeatedly. Between the ages of 4 to 10, I was sexually abused by my stepfather, and I would ask my 2 relatives, "Can you keep a secret?" They said, "It depends." As a result of that, the abuse continued because I was afraid to share. What I want people to understand is whenever someone comes up to you and says, "Can you keep a secret? Can you keep this between us? Is it confidential?" It's usually a cry for help. They're trying to tell you something. So when they say that to you, let's say, "Can you keep a secret?" you need to respond yes with your mouth, and then "it depends" with your head. So for example, there's a girl age 7 in America, sexually abused by her father. She came to school and she said, "Daddy is eating my cookie." That was her private parts. So let's say she came up to you and says, "Can you keep a secret?" When you say "it depends," she's just going to walk away. Because she's not confident in the process. Correct. But if we try it again, "Can you keep a secret?" Yes. And then she would say, "Daddy is eating my cookie." Then you will say, "I have to break your trust," and you phone the authorities. I'll say that again. "Can you keep a secret?" Yes. Then she will say, "Daddy is eating my cookie." Then you will say, "I have to break your trust," and you phone the authorities. You do not call the accused, "I heard you've been abusing your daughter," because he will deny it. Exactly. And then number 2, he will hide the evidence. Because back in the old days, children were sexually abused. Nowadays, abusers make money on the abuse because there's photos and videos. Exactly. So we need to understand, calling the accused he or she, because women do it too, they will hide the evidence. So it's really important for any person, young or old, when they're asked the question, "Can you keep a secret?" they respond yes with their mouth, "It depends" with their head, so they can hear the secret. Once they've heard the secret, then they decide what to do next. But before acting, you tell that person, "I have to break your trust. I'm going to call your mom." Whatever the next steps, you tell the person first. You do not go and do it behind their back. You let them know. That's really important. Because the person is disclosing because they want the help. Exactly. And even if they get angry at you today, in 10 years, when they're healthy and whole and the perpetrator is in jail, they will come back and thank you. Great. So then in the book, do you address issues of, multicultural issues? For example, what we believe in Africa has to do with the fact that if you're a child, you are not allowed to open up, especially on your feelings and your thought, which may be different from children who are found in Europe or who are found in America. Are you able to address the multicultural issues in the book, or is just specific to a different or a particular geographical region? It's interesting you ask that, because I haven't specifically mentioned this factor in the book, Can You Keep a Secret? But because of all of the challenges I experienced in writing this book, I'm actually writing a free ebook that will be available online, and it's called Behind the Scenes of Can You Keep a Secret? And I have a Ghana chapter in there. And so I'll certainly take on board what you've said, because the book is incomplete, and I will incorporate that. The current book, which will be for sale, that book talks about the auntie and uncle, the use of those terms, because quite frequently in the Caribbean and in Africa, everybody's called auntie and uncle. And I was discussing this with somebody in Trinidad, and she said she has issue with that, because one of the first things is when auntie and uncle come to the house and they're husband and wife and they kiss or they're close intimately, the child would be confused.
Sure.
Because the child would be thinking that's incestuous when in fact it's not. And then by using the terms auntie and uncle, quite often the child's guard is down because their familiarity is there, which is how abuse often takes place. People you know when your guard is down.
Exactly.
Like in churches.
You have so much confidence in them.
Correct.
And
in
you think,
churches,
okay.
it's the same kind of thing. Even if they don't use those terms, my experience in church is we let our guard down. When I go to church, we're hugging each other and being so close to each other on the first day. And we're so close and we're praying and telling our personal on the first day. Outside of church, we don't do all that. So your guard is down. And it makes you vulnerable.
And someone can take advantage of that.
Correct. And then I've heard about children who are sent to go to auntie, air quotes, or uncle's home to bring a package and go into the bedroom. And when this happens, things can take place. And then, of course, when a child is abused, quite often, regardless of culture, the blame is placed on them. This is in the West. This is in Ghana. This is in the Caribbean. The blame is placed on the child.
Exactly.
And then quite often, in most cultures, not just the Caribbean and Africa, but most cultures, when a person hears about abuse from a child, they will disbelieve the child and they'll keep it in the family.
Sure.
They will not inform the authorities.
Because of stigma and everything.
Correct. Embarrassment and we'll need a divorce. And so, unfortunately, the parents protect themselves and not the child.
Yeah.
And then I know one of the concerns in Ghana is if a child or a young person, man or woman, discloses any form of abuse or sexual violations, the fear quite frequently here is that the media will interview that individual. And they don't want their identity to be out
known.
there. Of course not, because of the shame, the stigma that is attached. But by the grace of God in the West, we are not ashamed because we are victims. We are now survivors. And even if we had some accountability in relation to what happened to us, that doesn't mean that we are fully to blame.
Sure.
Maybe you're in the wrong place at the wrong time. So yes, I should have taken my mother's advice or my father's advice. But even if you're in the wrong place, it doesn't mean somebody should rape or violate you. So even though we may apportion a little bit of blame because we shouldn't have been there, we can never say that gives somebody the right to violate us.
Okay, that's amazing. Let's go deeper into the context of the topic. What is sex trafficking to you? And then what will you say about child abuse?
With regards to sex trafficking, the way that I lay it out so that individuals will understand and not compartmentalize it to be only in a certain way or only in a certain circumstance, my personal opinion is whenever you have men and women and sex, you have sex trafficking. In my opinion, whenever you have restaurants, businesses, and establishments, you have labor trafficking. In my opinion, when you have sick people, people with ailments, you have organ trafficking. In my opinion, human trafficking takes place everywhere in the world, including in Ghana. But what people have to understand is human trafficking does not require movement.
Okay.
Because a lot of people are fixated on movement, people coming in or going out.
Sure.
But my opinion, which is based on fact and reality, my opinion, a trafficker, this is an opinion but based on fact, a trafficker would be a lot more successful at trafficking if he chooses a person who looks like they're from Ghana, speaks the local language, dresses the same, eats the same, and knows the culture. If a trafficker brings a person from China to Ghana, we will know immediately something isn't right.
Wrong, yeah.
Something isn't right. And so it's a lot easier for any trafficker to move undetected in any country by trafficking domestic victims, which means people who are from there. So when I'm in England, I'm more susceptible to being trafficked. Why? Because I fit in.
Sure.
When I'm outside of England, I stand out like a sore thumb. But a lot of people are focused on movement. And so when you see a man, a woman, boy or girl selling their body on the street, they could have been trafficked. When you see people begging on the street, they could have been trafficked. Because in parts of Europe and even in India, we have individuals, specifically in India, whose body parts are deformed. And that is not natural. That's man-made. Somebody did that to them. And they sit on the street and beg. So people have to understand it is not just sex trafficking. It comes in different forms.
Okay.
And sex trafficking is not just involving girls. It can be boys, men and women. And in Ghana, it is not just trafficking at Volta Lake. Trafficking can be in Kaswa, it can be in Accra. You can see it right in front of you, but you won't know what you're looking at. Because sometimes it's the older boyfriend or older girlfriend. We have peers trafficking each other in the West. We have teenagers trafficking each other. Come, let's go to this party. There are older guys there. But we don't see it like that. We think, oh, she's just promiscuous. No, she's being trafficked. We have students being trafficked.
Absolutely.
Going to university and school and being trafficked. It's a posh term we use, but really it's just exploitation. That's all it is.
Okay. So then what are the causal factors? We know a lot of them, but then we need to establish, for once, what are the major causal factors or the contributing factors to child abuse and sex trafficking?
I would definitely say vulnerability. A person
key.
sees your vulnerability and they take advantage. And what we have to understand is child abuse and human trafficking are very closely interlinked.
Yes.
Quite frequently, but not all the time, when a child is sexually abused, it distorts their identity of themselves. It's almost like they have a target on their back that perpetrators see. Because frequently we hear stories of children who are abused who become promiscuous, who become prostitutes, and we don't understand why. We sit and judge that girl or boy when it stemmed from something that happened 20 years ago.
Sure.
Because I know of a young boy in Trinidad, he was sexually abused by his nanny. When he turned teenage, he would get to school early and have sex with the girls in the back of the classroom. When people are judging this boy and calling him promiscuous, they have no idea that it's because of what happened to him earlier. And as the Bible rightly says in Song of Solomon's, do not awaken love before it desires. So when you see these promiscuous behaviors in somebody, you've got to get to the root cause. Because failing that, this boy, if he doesn't decide to become a pimp, for example, he can become a prostitute, because males are prostituted too. He can say, you know what, I want to make money off my body. My nanny abused me. Maybe he gets abused again later in life, God forbid. Because that's quite often what many of these victims think. My dad abused me, my uncle abused me, I should sell my body. So they're very interlinked, that vulnerability that is there, and we have to understand that. By dealing with sexual abuse, by helping these children, by identifying abusive situations, it means that child can become healthy and whole, and their identity is not in how many men or women they sleep with. Because even we have pimps and traffickers who will meet a girl or boy, will groom them for up to a year, enter into a relationship that becomes sexual, and then start to sell that individual. We even have children who do not live at home. They've been adopted, they're in foster care. What about runaways? They are very vulnerable, because most of us, maybe all of us, are looking for something, and I don't mean relationship. Most of us are looking for time. We all have different love languages, but the pimps and traffickers are very successful because they tend to give quality time.
Okay.
Even though they use different techniques for different individuals, time is the strongest strength, I would say, because we have girls and women who will date a man 10 years older, and she would say it's because he listens to me. There are men who will purchase prostitutes, and he will sit and talk to her for hours.
Okay.
And it's like we're all searching for something, and we all have vulnerability. That vulnerability makes any one of us susceptible to trafficking. Even if you are not sexually abused, your vulnerability, when identified, can be exploited. So in my book, I have a chapter called What is Your Currency?
Okay.
Because I use the term currency because every one of us has a different currency.
And that's your power.
Correct. Because when someone knows your currency, they will exploit it.
Exactly.
And quite often people exploit our currency, but we don't realize. We believe it's love, when in fact it's something else. And in South America, there are men who will meet a woman, date her, groom her, and marry her, and then they will pimp her out. So she believes it's her husband, and she has to feed her children, when in fact her husband is her pimp. But he saw her currency, he determined what it was, and he exploited it to the point of marriage, where she fell in love with this guy and believes, I'm just helping out the family, I'm doing my part, when in fact her husband's her pimp.
Viewers, you are still watching AAU Talks, and AAU Talks is brought to you by the Association of African Universities. We'll go for a short break. Stay tuned.
One of the universities set up in our pre-independence era, the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. Our international reputation has and continues to soar as a reference point in matters of science and technology, research and education. We believe that the future belongs to those who have sound technology acumen.
I love USD.
I love KNUST.
Welcome from the break. You are still watching AU Talks, and we are discussing sex trafficking and child abuse. And I believe that those of you who joined the conversation right from the beginning, you are picking up a lot of things and you are being inspired to share your experience and also help others to break the silence and also learn one or two things. We have a very short video for you. It's just about a minute. We will just want you to watch it, and then after that, we'll be back.
Family is something I've longed for as long as I can remember. This is my story.
Don't forget about me when you wish upon that star that you see. 'Cause I'm still alive under this same sky, wishing on that same star for strength to survive. Who will call me family?
Wipe the tears from my face, 'cause I won't leave another in this place. Oh, I look up to the sky, and through my red swollen eyes I see my star. Oh, how far. But with every new day, it doesn't seem so far away. 'Cause I know that someone out there will call me family. Oh, but who will call me family?
Welcome back from that short break. And what do you make of the video? I know you've watched that video over and over again. What are the key lessons, and what does it, I don't know, what inspiration do you pick from that video?
So originally I watched the video around 3 years ago in the US, and I actually cried the whole time. I'm not an emotional person at all. I keep my emotions on the inside, but I cried immediately because I understood exactly what was going on. What saddens me though when I show this video around the world is quite often anybody over 16 years of age watches that same video and they perceive that the guy at the first scene with the little girl, they believe that's her dad or grandfather.
Exactly.
And that concerns me because on the merry-go-round, he was rubbing his leg sexually. And so when people say that, I wonder, what father or grandfather did you have? Because for me, as soon as I saw the mother hand over the child, I knew what was going on. And I used the video not for people to cry, but for them to understand that, number one, human trafficking doesn't just start one day, you wake up, oops, you're trafficked. It doesn't start like that. With regards to the vulnerability of the individual, it may start when he or she is sold when they're younger. The vulnerability means that that person has this target that is seen and exploited. Because the girl was sold by her mother, and then eventually at 26, she ends up becoming a prostitute and selling herself. And I want people to understand that when you see somebody outside, you don't know their story. Any one of us could be prostituted or trafficked. And so I want people to become more open-minded, because at the end of the day, if it wasn't for the grace of God, it could be our story.
Exactly. For me, one key thing is that, you know, one of the difficulties is that we're unable to differentiate between when someone is trying to be nice, genuinely concerned about you, and when the person has a negative motive behind what he or she is doing. Because I believe that kids want to be loved, they want to be appreciated, they want to have that sense of belongingness. And at that very age, it is difficult for you to decipher or to tell that this man, this woman has a second motive. What should kids look out for? Which I know will be very difficult to answer, but what should people look out for when your uncle or when your cousin is trying to be very close? How do you tell that this one is coming from a negative angle and this one is positive?
It's very difficult to be able to determine when somebody's motives are impure.
Exactly.
Quite often, it's the gut instinct. When you're Christian, it's discernment. Because you'll see over time certain things a person does. And often the way a person looks at you. I had an experience here in Ghana personally when I was with an individual. And this person spent a lot of time with me when I was here on my first trip. On my first trip, I was very vulnerable. As I mentioned with currency, everybody has a currency, and I believe your currency can change. So when I was in Ghana the first time, my currency was, where can I go to speak on human trafficking? My currency was not having transport. So if you could organize transport, you could organize a speaking engagement, that's my currency, it's my vulnerability. And this person allegedly had good intention to support and assist me. But there were certain things that were not right about what they said. They mentioned that I could stay in their home. Their wife is not in the country. They were saying I could stay in their home. They can cook me a meal. And then when we're in a vehicle together, they were asking me about relationships and other questions. I usually wear a purity ring on my wedding finger. They were asking me why, and that's really irrelevant. You're married. You shouldn't be looking at my wedding finger. You know, your eyes should be elsewhere.
It's very natural.
Yeah, like, you know what I mean? And then also, they kept touching my face and saying, you're crying. And if I'm crying, I think I would know. Then they were touching my knee. And I was very uncomfortable with all of that.
They are showing concern.
Allegedly. And if I'm crying, I would know. I don't need you to touch my face, and you don't need to touch my knee. And so quite often when something is happening, on the inside it doesn't feel right. And even if the person comes with, oh, you're crying or whatever, on the inside, how does it feel? Because quite often the gut instinct is correct. When you meet a person who has good intention, over time you will see their motives. You will see whether that person is pure. Because we cannot say if someone's nice to you, they're trying to groom you. We don't know that. You have to look beyond the surface. Grooming is when someone prepares you for sex. They do nice things for you. Take you out for food, do your hair, nails, and makeup. But not everybody who does that is grooming you.
Exactly.
And that's what you have to understand. But there's no specific way to tell. It's over time. The truth will come out. Their colors will be revealed. A person can only disguise for so long. But what you have to understand is if a person has wrong intention, they may not exhibit such signs until months or even years later. Even I actually have a relative, a distant relative, who actually was trying to groom me. And this individual was so nice to me and would listen to my problems. And I was aware I was being groomed, but most people would know that because he just listened to me. He didn't do anything else. But then at the same time, whilst listening to me, He was telling my mother I'm promiscuous and that I'm engaging in sexual activity with boys from the school next door. I go to an all-girls school, so he used the example of, oh, the boys next door. And so if he had raped me, because it wouldn't be consensual, my mother would think, well, she's promiscuous. And so that's the thing, it's what's going on behind the surface. Even if the person is not being forward to you and not doing anything that is deemed inappropriate, what other things are they doing? Are they spreading rumors about you? Are there certain ways they're looking at you? Are they giving you certain gifts like clothing or things that are sexualized? Are they posing in photos with you and touching you inappropriately? Because there's a girl in Ghana, teenage girl, and I saw a photo with her and a guy, and the guy's hand was resting over her shoulder, but if you look at the picture, it appears he's touching her chest. And when I told her that, she removed the photo. That's not the point. I'm not saying to remove the photo. I'm telling you his hand shouldn't be there.
Okay.
She said, oh, we were laughing. She made excuses. That's not the point. When you're posing for a photo, you know where your hand is. So it's just things like this. Because she would not have been observant of that because she was enjoying herself too much. But then if the person is the vulnerability, it starts with posing for a photo, and then from there it can continue on, and then next thing you know, God forbid, something worse can happen just from a photograph.
Okay, so let's look at the book launch, which is very important, and you mentioned is in June 1st, right?
That's right.
Okay, so what will go into the launching? Who should be there?
My book launch will be on the 1st of June, which is the first Saturday in June, from 1 to 5 p.m. at Powerhouse, Accra. I'm inviting everyone to attend. That's young people, those who are married with children, elderly, those who have professions, for example, social workers, police, army. Everyone needs to be there, because even though it specifically talks about child abuse and trafficking, more focused on child sex trafficking, it's information everyone needs to know. I feel we have to be our brother's keepers. So if you have knowledge, it's not just for yourself, it's for people around you. Any one of us could be vulnerable. And the fact is, the book is there and it provides tools, not just about abuse and trafficking, but even about relationships. And so I feel everyone who wants to be better educated and empowered to safeguard the people in their world, whether that's colleagues, family members, should be there. Because not everybody has children of their own, but it doesn't mean you cannot look out for the children that are around you. So I want everyone to come out so they can hear the information, buy the book, and hopefully be entertained. Because even though it is a subject that is very depressing, very despondent, negative as one would put it, we'll be having people perform poems there, sing. We're working on a movie trailer. We want people to be entertained, not just educated, but entertained. Because most book launches are very boring. Some reads from the book. But we won't be reading from any book. We'll be performing the book and singing the book and doing poetry about the book. We want to make it as impactful as possible. And besides, I want people to enjoy it. For them to leave there feeling awed, feeling inspired, to want to do something differently. So I'm very excited about it. We have a great lineup of people. We also have a song called Can You Keep a Secret that's being performed. So we're very excited about it, and we want people to come out in their numbers so they can hear, they can learn, and so they can safeguard one another.
Okay, we will definitely be there.
Awesome.
Yes, we'll be there. But I'm so much sure that others would also want to know how they can get. Are you going to sell tickets? Is it an open invitation? How is it going to be? And if someone wants to contact you, your social media handles, if someone wants to connect with you, because I believe so much that people would want to connect with you and then share their stories as well. How do they get to you?
Anyone who wants to attend the book launch can reach out to me via Facebook, which is Changing Cases, Changing CASES. Also my website, changingcases.org. I have a local number, which I know you have written down, because I can't remember. But people should reach out to me with regards to having me speak, because I speak free of charge. I'm willing to speak between now and June 28th on human trafficking. And any part of Ghana, it's not just in Accra. I will travel throughout to speak with concerns to the book launch and the book. Anybody who pre-orders the book in advance, pre-purchases, they will receive a 10% discount. For those who would like to attend the book launch, it would be best for them to sign up in advance. So we have a sign up online on the website, changingcases.org/CYCAS, CYKAS, which is Can You Keep a Secret. We want them to sign up in advance so we know how many numbers, how many people to expect. And if people sign up in advance and pre-purchase the book, the discount is there. Walk-ins are welcome, but it's a lot more effective to have numbers so we can ensure everybody will be seated. We don't want to not have enough chairs, because we want this to be a really big event. We have just under 2 months to promote and to get people to turn up in their droves. So it's best that they sign up in advance, but walk-ins are absolutely welcome. and they can reach out. They can tell me their secret, tell me their story. I'm always willing to listen.
Okay. So what are your final words? As an attorney, it will be very important that can we come out with laws, regulations, and things like that globally? And because I'm talking about the fact that you are a New York State attorney, and so I'm looking at the global level. I know countries and some regions may have regulations, but then do you envisage having global laws and rules and regulations kind of governing some of these issues?
I think global laws have their place, and it provides an umbrella which enables each country to know what is the set standard. But the challenge with global laws is that each country's culture is different.
Exactly.
In the Philippines, for example, there are orphanages which I have visited and which I know about. There are orphanages in India that I know about where children perform massages. In a place like the Philippines, I have an issue with children performing massages on staff. Even if it's a female performing it on a female, I have an issue. Number one, that could constitute labor trafficking. Number two, it could constitute exploitation. But number three, in a country like the Philippines or Thailand, massages in the Philippines and Thailand are known as sexual.
Okay.
So when we have certain laws in one country, they will be ineffective in another. When in the Philippines, giving a massage to your employer, giving a massage to the staff that are there is deemed acceptable. For us, it is not. We have to consider what is culturally seen as okay and what isn't. Because in the Philippines, the children who are performing massages, maybe there's no abuse whatsoever, but that is culturally okay.
Okay.
For example, in Thailand, you're not allowed to touch the child's head. In the West, maybe you are. So even if we have these laws that are global, the issue is what is deemed acceptable and what is not. And so that doesn't really work. And then the laws are only good as the law enforcement and as good as the legislators. Because in a place like Ghana, even if you have very strict legislation, who is enforcing it?
Exactly.
Is money being passed under the table? And then what about the corporal punishment that quite often parents believe to control their children in the Caribbean and Africa, and they have to beat them? In the West, we don't do that. In the West, that is abuse.
Okay.
But here, it's deemed to be culturally acceptable. When it comes to sexual abuse, of course, we know that is completely wrong. But when it comes to other kind of abuses, where do you join the line? Because that's what we believe is okay. And even if the laws are out there, and let's say the law is you cannot beat your child, but in Ghana, who's going to report it? So it doesn't really work. You need to have laws that are effective, that consider cultural norms. And I believe if you want to change things in Ghana where children are no longer beaten, you have to immerse that culture. If I wanted to see change in a country, I would eat like the people, dress like them, and act like them.
And be with them.
And embrace it. And then I would give them an alternative. Telling parents, do not hit your children, is not a solution. You need to give them an alternative. Education solves everything. Tell them what works instead. Because a lot of children who are beaten, it doesn't do anything.
Absolutely.
They end up hating their parents. They become more mischievous. They run away. When they run away, they become vulnerable for exploitation.
Exactly.
We need to find a better solution. Because when you beat your son and he grows up and beats his wife, well, what do you expect? You taught him that's how we solve problems.
Sure.
So we have to change the way we think. And yes, we can have laws, but we have to ensure the laws are enforced by dealing with the corruption, dealing with the facts of underreporting.
And changing attitude and perceptions and everything.
Which takes a lot of work, but it's not impossible, but it starts one person at a time.
All right. Thank you so much, Juanita, for coming.
Absolutely.
And we've learned so much from you, and most especially sharing your own personal experience and then volunteering, putting up yourself there to make sure that you help others. I think it's something that is fantastic. And so we pray that the good Lord will continue to bless you and give you all the resources that you need. Then you will be able to affect more lives in Africa and then the entire globe as well. We wish you all the best. And thanks for coming. Great. Viewers, this has been AU Talks, and we have been privileged to host Juanita Headley, and she is New York State Attorney, and she has been volunteering for 7 good years. And she has shared with us this morning wonderful things that you need to hear, and then things that you need to take home and make sure that together we all stop abuse, either sex or any form of abuse at all. But don't forget that on the 1st of June, you are joining us for the book launch, and I want to see you there. Just go on Facebook, follow her, and let's make sure that together we are able to make a difference and a change. Thanks for watching. My name is Kwesi Sam.